Well, welcome back, everyone. Just when you thought the political world couldn't get any crazier, Donald Trump did it again. Speaking to a room full of U.S. generals, he insisted that Canada should become America's 51st state.
Yes, you heard that right. We thought his annexation fantasies had been shelved as trolling, but Trump is now doubling down and calling on Canada to become America's 51st state again. And at the same time, he's slapping fresh tariffs on Canadian lumber, cabinets, and furniture.
Are we under attack again? Maybe so. But here's the good news. Canadians are not only fed up, we're fired up. And today we talk about what's happening, what's at stake, and how we respond. Are you fed up or fired up? We want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments.
So here's the part that made my jaw drop. This wasn't a throwaway line on social media. Trump revived that Canada should be the 51st state pitch in a room full of U.S. military brass during a missile defense briefing at Quantico. He even claimed Canada called to get under his new dome, and his response was basically, "Sure, if you join us." This wasn't offhand rhetoric. It was a directed message delivered in a room full of military leaders. That moves this from idle chatter to deliberate pressure.
And yes, this means even more because of where he said it. When you pair annexation threats with a military backdrop, it stops being just a culture war zinger and starts sounding like a pressure campaign. Economic squeeze here, security leverage there, sovereignty on the table everywhere. The stick is already swinging. New tariffs on our softwood lumber, cabinets, and furniture. It kicks in October 14th with threats of even higher rates in January. That's what's happening on the economic front.
So is this the next step towards Canada becoming the 51st state, elevating it from economic war to real war? I sure hope not. But it is an escalation in a way that politicians actually notice, controlling the story and applying pressure. Say it often enough, say it to generals, say it while signing tariff proclamations, and then you suddenly shift the narrative from, "That's absurd," to, "Why are we even discussing this?" That's their game.
And here's where we draw the line. Canada's sovereignty is not a bargaining chip. There's no constitutional on-ramp where you just staple a maple leaf onto Old Glory and call it a day. Any offer that ties missile defense to statehood is coercion dressed up as partnership. And the answer stays the same, a hard no. From leaders across parties and from Canadians who like our flag just the way it is.
Let's just hope that PP and Smith are on board as well. But first, let's talk about the other shoe that dropped. Tariffs. Because when Trump dusts off the same old 51st state fantasy, he doesn't stop at words, he reaches for the tariff hammer. And this week, he swung hard. Again.
Starting on October 14th, Canadian softwood lumber gets hit with 10% tariffs. Cabinets, vanities, and upholstered furniture, 25%. And he's already warning it could climb as high as 50% by January if Canada doesn't play ball. That's his classic economic squeeze.
And the justification? Well, he invoked Section 232 of U.S. trade law, the National Security Clause. Apparently, 2x4s and kitchen cupboards are now a threat to the homeland. Think about it. Canada has been supplying American homes for generations. Lumber built their suburbs, furniture filled their living rooms, and film crews from Hollywood North shot half the shows on their streaming platforms. But suddenly, Canada's a security risk. Please.
But the impact is serious, right? In BC, Quebec, and Atlantic Canada, forestry towns live and die by lumber exports. Furniture and cabinet makers across Ontario and Manitoba, they get swept up in it too.
Thousands of jobs, billions in trade, all targeted. And don't forget Hollywood North. Trump has been hinting about tariffs on film and TV production too. He said this week, "Our movie-making business has been stolen from the United States of America by other countries. Therefore, in order to solve this long-time, never-ending problem, I will be imposing a 100% tariff on any and all movies that are made outside the United States." That's my best Trump impersonation. That's threatening Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, entire industries built on cross-border collaboration. They're suddenly under threat.
And for some reason, Trump and his cronies refuse to admit that tariffs like these don't just hurt Canada, they hit Americans right in the wallet too. Lumber tariffs drive up U.S. housing costs, renovations get pricier, home builders lose margins. It's basic economics. American contractors and consumers will end up paying more for their own homes just so Trump can claim a win.
But that's the point, isn't it? This isn't about smart economics. I don't even think he knows the definition of the word. It's about showmanship. Trump gets to tell his base, I stood up to Canada. Never mind that he's standing on the necks of both Canadian mill workers and American families trying to afford a house.
What we're seeing here is a tariff sledgehammer, swung not for strategy, but for optics. And like every hammer swing, it tells us the same story. This is pressure politics, plain and simple.
First it was steel and then autos. Now it's lumber and furniture. Next, maybe culture, maybe energy. The pattern is escalation and the goal is the same. Grind us down until someone in Ottawa breaks.
So why keep coming after Canada? Lumber 1 week, annexation threats next. What is the end game here?
First, it's about our resources. Canada has what the U.S. wants: softwood lumber, energy, critical minerals, and yes, our water. By hitting us with tariffs and dangling statehood, Trump frames Canada not as a partner, but as a storehouse that you can raid when it suits you.
Second, it's political theater. Picking fights with allies looks tough on TV and Truth Social. Tariffs are easy applause lines at his rallies. It doesn't matter that they raise costs for American families. What matters is the clip of Trump saying, I stood up to Canada. It plays well with his base, even if it plays havoc with reality.
They don't know any better anyway.
No, true.
And third is testing boundaries. Every time Canada treats this as just rhetoric, he takes note. Every time we downplay it, he learns he can push harder. That's why saying 51st state in front of generals matters. It shifts the context. It's no longer a late-night tweet. It's now part of U.S. policy conversations and military briefings and tariff rollouts.
Listen, this isn't just random noise, people. It's a plan. Dangle the carrot. Join us and you get protection. Refuse and here's your tariff bill. And repeat that until the absurd sounds negotiable.
The message from us has to be strong and clear. Canada doesn't negotiate its sovereignty. Period. Every time we treat this as a joke instead of a strategy, we give his platform room to work. So the question is, do we keep reacting or do we start dictating the terms?
So here's the truth, though. Most of Canada is united on sovereignty. Well, of course, there's Danielle Smith and the right wing in Alberta. They're never really on board, right? With their separatist chatter, their talk of a referendum, and that loud minority flirting with the idea of aligning closer to the U.S. and even outright statehood. That exists. But luckily, it's not mainstream Alberta, and it's definitely not the country. But we do have to keep that in check.
And places like CTV and CBC need to stop giving her such a loud voice. Because even in Alberta, the polling shows a majority doesn't want to leave Canada. And separation isn't the same as joining the US anyway. Those are totally different constitutional universes. You add the Indigenous treaty rights and national consent and international law, and the 51st state path isn't a path at all. It's a brick wall for those right-wing Albertans.
So yes, except for a few crazies out west, nationally the position is clear. Sovereignty is non-negotiable. Ordinary Canadians, like all of us, are already pushing back in our own way. Look at the rise of the Buy Canadian movements. People choosing Canadian-made furniture, Canadian-shot films, and Canadian brands. Every tariff that Trump throws our way is another reason for us to invest in ourselves instead of leaning on his approval.
The government's not sitting still either. Ottawa's rolling out support for the forestry sector, subsidies to keep mills open, and pushing new trade deals with Europe, Latin America, and Asia. Because the reality is, every time the U.S. squeezes us, it accelerates our diversification. We sell to more partners, rely less on our neighbor, and that makes our country more resilient.
And we can't forget about diplomacy. Canada has friends. Strong ones. Europe, Australia, Japan. They're not exactly thrilled with Trump's tariff tantrums either, because he's targeting them as well. So that means alliances aren't just military, they're economic. When Canada pushes back, we're not standing alone on the ice. We've got a full team ready to skate with us.
And that's when Polyev keeps insulting Carney, saying that he's traveling too much. He's dead wrong. Carney needs to go and meet face to face with all of these leaders to make sure that Canada stays a sovereign country and has strong partners and military backing. So yes, Trump can posture, bluster, and swing the tariff hammer. But every swing for leverage lands as motivation up here. He's not fracturing Canada, he's hardening Canada and bringing us together. We're polite people until someone tries to shove us around. Then the elbows come up and the plan gets serious. Diversify, reshore where it makes sense, and defend our sectors, and make the next squeeze less effective than the last.
So what do we watch for next? Because if there's one thing we've learned, it's that the tariffs are never just a one and done with Trump.
The lumber hit is just another addition to his already punishing tariffs, and he's already threatened to ratchet duties up to 50% by January. And we can't ignore his late-night Truth Social updates as much as we want to, because he's threatening Hollywood North with tariffs, and they aren't just hot air. A 100% tariff on Canadian film and production would crater cross-border work in Toronto and Vancouver, and even the American industry. You have no idea how much is edited, how much post-production, and how much filming is done up in Canada. So imagine paying double for your Netflix membership just because it was filmed in BC. It's absurd.
And remember, that 51st state line was dropped in front of generals. That's deliberate. He's tying economic war to military optics as if sovereignty is something Canada has to earn by playing nice. It's narrative warfare. Repeat it enough, and you start moving the debate from "that's ridiculous" to well, maybe.
Trump is getting exhausting. He's the worst thing that has happened to this world. And this isn't just a warning sign. It's not that tanks are rolling over the border, but it's that sovereignty gets reframed as optional. The response can't be a shrug. It has to be clear and consistent and loud. Canada isn't negotiable.
So here's how we see it. Trump can posture, slap tariffs, and spin fantasies about a 51st star on the flag, but every move he makes just hardens Canada's resolve.
From the mills in BC to the film sets in Toronto and the post-production houses in Montreal, from the Atlantic ports to the prairie towns, Canadians aren't interested in annexation. They're interested in building a future on their own terms. And that's the story Trump keeps missing.
The more he squeezes, the more Canada diversifies. The more he talks about owning us, the more Canadians say, yeah, I don't think so, buddy. We already own ourselves. That's sovereignty. That's independence. And that is true north.
So don't listen to the trolls who are saying that Canadians want to join. The majority of us do not, so don't fall for it. Those are Russian troll farms and basements trying to shape the narrative.
The bottom line is Canada is not for sale, not for annexation, and not for intimidation. We're not the 51st state. We are the first and only Canada.
And if you're new here, welcome everyone. Why don't you hit that like and subscribe and click on that bell because it makes sure that you see our next video.
And if you want to go deeper, our Substack has got your back. And remember, our merch keeps the coffee strong and the 18 community is growing fast, so think about joining. The links are in the description.
So stay proud, stay united, and stay Canadian. And keep those elbows up because we have a big fight ahead of us. See you next week.